One. Whew. Wow. This feels so intentional. For those of you who have been connected to Candidly Fierce from the beginning, you know this started from a very real place. It started with a mission to normalize financial conversations, the conversations most families avoid, and the conversations most people were never taught to have. Conversations around money, financial literacy, financial trauma, breaking generational curses, and building generational wealth. And what made Candidly Fierce different was that it was never just about numbers. It was about people. It was about understanding how life experiences, fear, trauma, upbringing, and beliefs shape the way people think about money, business, success, leadership, and even ourselves. And that work mattered. It was real. It was needed. And honestly, it still is. But over time, I started realizing something. Money was never just about money. It was about mindset, discipline, identity, the decisions we make, the things we hold on to, the things we avoid, and the truths we're afraid to confront. And I realized something else. You can teach people financial literacy. You can give people all the strategy in the world. You can help people build successful businesses. But if their mindset is broken, if their leadership is broken, if their life is just out of alignment, they will struggle to sustain what they build. And that realization started to change how I saw everything. I started noticing patterns. The, the people I was talking to through Candidly Fierce was struggling with many of the same things I was seeing inside organizations and businesses that Fierce Financial Services, which is another company that I have that focuses on strategy, financial leadership, business growth, and helping organizations build stronger foundations. They all have the same problems. On one side, people were looking for answers to financial questions. On the other side, organizations were looking for strategic answers. But underneath both conversations, I kept finding the same challenges: mindset, leadership, decision making, discipline, and alignment. Because whether you're trying to build wealth, lead an organization, grow a business, or navigate a major life decision, strategy alone isn't enough. And that's when something clicked for me. I realized that Candidly Fierce and Fierce Financial Services were always connected. And I eventually realized they were both solving different parts of the same problem. One focused on internal transformation, the other focused on external execution. One challenged how people think, the other help them build what they were called to create. And that's when I understood that you need both. You can't build a sustainable business, career, financial future, or life without alignment. And alignment without execution will leave you inspired but stuck. And if I'm being honest, there came a point where I had to confront that truth in my own life. Because while I was helping other people navigate finances, business, and strategy, there were still areas in my life that were out of alignment. And that realization changed me. It changed the way I saw leadership. It changed the way I saw success. And honestly, it changed the way I saw myself. So what Candidly Fierce was a space to start the conversation. But what it is today is a space where truth, alignment, mindset, and execution come together a space where we don't just talk about building wealth, we talk about becoming the person who can actually sustain it. And once I understood that, I knew Candidly Fierce had to evolve too. And that's why tonight matters. Because tonight is not just a podcast recording, it's a reset, a realignment, a reintroduction to Candidly Fierce and to who I am today. First, I want to thank you for being here, because I know everyone in this room is carrying something they're trying to build, navigate, heal from, or just figure out. And whether you're an entrepreneur, a professional, a leader, or someone trying to figure out what's next for you, this conversation is for you. Because in alignment impacts how you lead, how you build, how you make decisions, and ultimately what you're able to sustain. So welcome to Candidly Fierce. And tonight's conversation is called The Evolution of Candidly Fierce. Because in order to understand where you're going, or where we're going, tonight I got to make it personal. I need to tell you what changed. For me, the realization came during a season where on paper, things look like they should have been working. Y'all ever been there where on paper everything just looked good, but in real life it's a hot mess? That was me. I had the knowledge, I had the discipline, the experience, I had the business, I had the plans, I had the goals. And at the time, I was leading multiple businesses. Fierce Financial Services was established. Candidly Fierce was growing. And what started as a small logistics opportunity where I was just delivering flowers eventually became TNT Logistics, a FedEx ground contractor. What I thought would be one opportunity quickly became so much bigger. It required more time, more leadership, more responsibility. And before I knew it, I had put portions of Fierce and Candidly Fierce on pause without any communication to my clients, to my viewers, or to anyone who just trusted me to move forward while I focused on what I was building right in front of me. And if I'm being honest, I thought the answer was going to be found in working harder. So I did what a lot of high performers do. My family can tell y'all about this. I pushed harder. I worked longer. I thought more. I analyzed more. I tried to solve every possible problem before it even happened. And eventually, I became exhausted. Not because I was doing too little, but because I was just carrying too much. I remember having a conversation with a friend, and during that conversation, something clicked. I realized I had become so focused on outcomes that I forgot the purpose behind what I was building. I had been so consumed with questions like, why is this happening to me? Why isn't this growing faster? Why isn't this working the way I planned? Why isn't this happening on my timeline? And somewhere in the middle of chasing those answers, I lost sight of the mission. I forgot that TNT was never just about trucks, routes, and revenue. It was about creating opportunities, creating stability, creating impact, creating jobs, serving something that was bigger than myself. And when I remembered that, everything started to shift, because purpose changes how you interpret pressure. The challenges didn't disappear overnight when I made that realization. The circumstances did not suddenly change, but my perspective changed. And sometimes that's where alignment begins. But I still had another truth to confront. I wasn't operating from vision anymore. I was reacting. I wasn't following the systems and strategies I had already built. I was making decisions based on how I felt in the moment. And that was a hard truth to face, because for someone who teaches strategy, I wasn't following my own. I was making emotional decisions when the facts were telling me to do something different. And that wasn't just affecting my business, it was affecting me as a person. I was carrying pressure that I didn't have to carry. I was trying to solve problems that hadn't even happened yet. And financially, I was absorbing weight that I knew I could reduce, but because I didn't want my team to feel it, I just said I got it. And while that made me a great boss, it made me a terrible business owner. I was trying to save people while I was drowning in pressure myself. And the truth is, the same pattern wasn't just showing up in business, it was showing up in my personal life too. I was overextending, overgiving, trying too hard to hold everything together, trying to make things work. And that's when I learned something that changed the way I see leadership. Misalignment doesn't stay in one area of your life, it bleeds. A bad day in business affects how you show up personally. And what happens personally affects how you show up as a leader. Eventually, I had to ask myself a question. Am I building a life that's aligned? Or am I just managing dysfunction in different areas of my life? And the answer was hard, but it was clear. This isn't sustainable. And more importantly, this isn't aligned. So I started making different decisions. I released the need to control outcomes. I released my timeline. I released the pressure of trying to carry things that were never meant for me to carry. I started setting boundaries about my time, my energy, and my access. And I started making decisions as a leader instead of making decisions based on how I felt. I had to shift from being liked to leading. And once I started doing that, something changed. My decisions got better. My thinking got clearer. My leadership got stronger. And I gained clarity, not just about my business, but about my purpose. And for the first time in a long time, I had peace. Not because everything was perfect, not because all the problems disappeared, but because I finally understood that alignment was something I found. It wasn't something I found. It was something I had to choose. And when I look back on that season now, there are a few things I know to be true. Not because I read it in a book, not because someone taught them to me, but because life made me learn them. And tonight, I want to teach you those 4 lessons. Lesson 1: truth comes before transformation. We all want change. We all want growth. We all want better outcomes. But none of those things happen until we're willing to tell ourselves the truth. The truth about what's working, the truth about what's not, the truth about what we've outgrown, and the truth about what we're still holding on to. Because you can't transform what you're unwilling to acknowledge. Lesson 2: purpose changes how you interpret pressure. For a long time, I thought pressure was proof that something was wrong. But what I eventually realized is that pressure isn't always a sign to quit. Sometimes it's a sign to remember why you started. When I remembered the vision behind TNT, the pressure didn't disappear, but it stopped defining me because purpose gave the pressure context. Lesson 3: misalignment always leaves clues. It rarely shows up all at once. It shows up in exhaustion, overthinking, frustration, confusion, resentment, and burnout. And sometimes what we're calling stress is actually misalignment trying to get our attention. Last but not least, lesson 4. Alignment is a choice, not a destination, not a feeling, not an at one time decision, a choice. A choice to tell yourself the truth, a choice to set boundaries, a choice to release what no longer belongs in your life, a choice to lead differently. And the reason I say that alignment is a choice is because there are still days when I have to choose it. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still becoming, but now I'm doing it intentionally. So let me ask you something. What part of my story sounded familiar to you? Maybe your challenge is in business. Maybe it's life. Maybe you've been carrying a season you never asked for. Was it the pressure, the overthinking, the exhaustion, the feeling like you're carrying more than you ever were meant to carry? Was it the frustration of working hard and still feeling like sometimes something still just isn't clicking? Or maybe it was something else. Maybe it was realizing that somewhere along the way, you got so focused on the outcome, you forgot your purpose. Maybe you've been building, working, pushing, achieving, accomplishing. But if you're honest, you haven't stopped long enough to ask yourself, what if your building isn't it, lot? But if you're honest, you haven't stopped to ask yourself what you're building is it still aligned with who you are becoming. It's so funny. I know you all so personally in this room. So, because that's the question. Not whether you're successful, not whether you're capable, not whether you're working hard. The question is it aligned? Is it the way, is the way you're leading aligned? Is the way you're working aligned? Is the way you're managing your money aligned? Are all the relationships in your life aligned? And I want to be clear about something. Getting into alignment is not easy. It sounds good. It looks good on social media, but living it, that's different. It requires hard decisions, hard conversations, boundaries, discipline. And sometimes it requires grieving versions of yourself that you thought you could never, ever leave, but it just doesn't fit into the next season of your life. And I know that personally because I'm still walking through that process myself. This isn't me standing up here pretending I got it all figured out. This is me choosing to be honest enough to keep doing the work because alignment is ongoing. It isn't something you achieve once and never think about again. It's something you choose over and over and over again. A lot of times we call it burnout. But what burnout is really the result of carrying things that were never meant to be carried all at once. We were never designed to pour from areas of ourselves without intention, without boundaries, without balance. So tonight, I'm not asking you to leave here with all the answers. I'm asking you to leave here with greater awareness, more honesty, more intentionality, and maybe one question you're finally willing to answer. So, my question to you is, what truth have you been avoiding? Who wants to go? Anyone want to jump to answer the question?
Hi, everyone. I'll start off. So, it's kind of piggybacking off of you, Therese. How do you not burn yourself out and move into your God-given realization purpose? Like, what steps is a person supposed to take or yourself supposed to take without burning yourself out and moving into where you're supposed to be purpose driven?
Good question. Do you think you're a loyal person?
Yes.
Do you think you're loyal to everyone in your life?
Yes.
I will disagree. I would disagree because to ask that question is telling me that you're not loyal to you. To be able to become in alignment is to recognize the truth that your God-given purpose, right, matters more than anything. So the first thing you would have to do is set boundaries, close off access, and stop being a people pleaser. Right? Not calling you a people pleaser, but based on the question in general, it tells me that people's needs, wants, feelings matter more than yours. If it is your God-given purpose, do it and do it intentionally. What's the most important thing is let people be who they are. Let them. And in letting them, as you step back, right? Because we can't control other people's emotions. We can't control other people's actions. We can't control other people's feelings. But if you let them just be them and you work on who you are, guess what? The people who are for you will show up. The people who are for you will still be there, right? You don't have to pour that amount of energy into other people. You can pour it into you. Bet on Kelly, right? Because if Kelly had a Kelly in her life,
I do have a Kelly in my life too.
I got you always, right? But if Kelly showed up for Kelly like she does everyone else, Kelly would be unstoppable. Anybody else?
So you mentioned leadership quite a bit, and one of the things I think my truth that I have is you got to lead yourself first.
Mhm.
So it's the truth that you're talking about, even the things you said to Kelly. Like if you don't fill your cup, and I coach parents, if your cup is not overflowing, you can't pour. So often we pour out, and we say, "Oh, I'm gonna fill my cup up. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that." But if you're constantly doing that, you're going to get exhausted.
Right, because you should never fill from an empty cup.
And even if you keep filling it, even if it's partly filled and you let it go, you should always give from your
overflow. Right.
So leadership starts with you, and that starts with again with what you said about alignment. And there's a phrase I stole from somebody else this year: is you can carry, not carry. To carry.
It is okay to recognize that sometimes the assignment that people have in your life or you have in their life is just over. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't mean that it's not time to grow or that you can't grow together, right? It just means that where we are in life, that there is a different process, right? I often say I compartmentalize my friends. People who know me know that I do it and I do it pretty well, right? Being an entrepreneur and a business owner, I can't have those same conversations with my corporate friends. They just don't get it, right? I can't talk about my Peloton workouts with my friends who don't like to work out. I'm wasting my breath. I can't talk about, well, I talk about Jesus with everybody, but I can't expect for my friends or for my colleagues and associates who don't know a man named Jesus to get my passion for a man named Jesus. Everyone in this room was handpicked for a reason. I know a lot of people, but they are not sitting in this room, and that was intentional. I do very good about blocking who has what access to me, because I need to be able to pour into the people that pour into me and vice versa. Right? This Candidly Fierce this year is going to be about me being transparent, and people know me. Y'all know I don't like telling my business. However, what you saw before the show started is something heavy for whatever came over me. Whatever reason, for those of you who know me, know I had some very, very close friends that passed. For whatever reason, I saw them walking around in this room. I didn't tell my friends that are here what I needed, right? But they knew, come pray. They knew to say, get your ish together. They knew what to do. I can't call people to just be like, be here for me, and they don't. So I need you all to think like that. I need you to think about when you talk about life changes and you want to go another route, right? I need you to have people in your corner to be like, let's do it. What it look like? You need a business strategy? Let's do it. But also understand that when you get to that point, you need to be able to receive the information that is given to you. Because guess what? What you see and what I see on you may not be the same. You also have to understand that if you trust somebody that much with your vision, that the way they're going to pour into you and the steps that they're going to take are coming from a good place. If you don't trust that, that person is not aligned to where you're going. If you think that person has ill intentions, they need to go. Again, like I said, this is a very personal audience. I know I done stepped on all y'all toes. But we'll talk. Okay. Right? But I say it from the purest place. I say it from the things that I see. I say it from the place where I know you deserve better. I know that God has a purpose in your life. I know that you're going to be blessed to do amazing things. And I know this is our season. And it's going to happen expediently and abundantly. I know this. I see this. I just need you to believe it. Y'all cool?
You mentioned discipline, and when I think about that, I think it's one of the most challenging things when it comes to finances. So what do to build that discipline, like discipline in, I guess, the financial choices that they make, and how can they maintain that? Like, how can they keep up that discipline?
Question.
That is a good
Especially in
question.
today's climate and environment that we live in, this economy.
When you get paid, you pay taxes.
Sure. Of course, I pay taxes because they take them before they give me anything else. So yeah, when I get I pay taxes.
You have a choice. You have a choice.
Well, I mean, true, but I choose to pay the taxes ahead of time. You're right. Based on how I fill out the form, I do choose to pay taxes.
So why can't you choose to have financial discipline and pay you first and take care of your priorities? Right. Again, it started as a financial literacy podcast. Right. So remember, I'm always going to teach you about you need to pay yourself first. And when I say pay yourself first, I mean a savings account and an emergency fund, because you may be saving for something and an emergency may pop up. We're not taking from our savings account to handle this emergency. We should have two, right? And both of them need to be in a high yield savings account, because that money sitting over there shouldn't just be sitting there. It should be making you money. So the mindset that you have when you look at your job, like you said, I have no choice. Why can't you create that discipline that you have no choice to do what you need to do for your finances? Get your priorities in order.
So Therese, just piggybacking off that question, a lot of us well, I'll speak for myself. My family didn't teach me about financial literacy. I tell you time and time again, I had to learn. My parents told me to have good credit, but they didn't teach me like how do I get good credit? What does it mean to invest? They didn't give me those skill sets, so I didn't learn those things until like people like you planted seeds or going on YouTube University and looking at stuff. How do you feel like? What's the next steps to normalize those type of conversations and get that knowledge?
Candidly Fierce. Candidly Fierce is about normalizing the hard financial conversation. That's how I started this. The conversations that people don't want to have, right? So the old Candidly Fierce, my first question used to be, tell me about your first experience with money, right? And I asked that, and people always pause and they get quiet and they be like, what do you mean? Tell me the first time that money actually mattered to you. The first time you thought about it. The first time it mattered. The first time it was important. And 9 times out of 10, episode after episode, it always was attached to trauma. Your first memory of money is about something you couldn't get when you was a kid. Something somebody told you no because of something. Your bank account was something. Your first thought about money was financial trauma. Nobody taught you how to get out of it. Nobody even had a conversation with you. Nobody taught you if you were dealing with it the wrong way, or how to heal from that trauma. That's all we talked about before. And we gave each other tips about how to handle that, right? But after just talking about it, it's like therapy. When you open a wound and nobody tells you, so what am I supposed to do with it? How do I break that, right? Because if you actually think about that question, I can see the looks on your faces. So now you're thinking about it, right? So if no one taught you how to break that, or what the mindset is about it, right? What do you do with it? Now I just got you sitting here thinking, and now you're thinking about, dang, that is what happened. And guess what? I still do this because this is what happened back then. I ain't even control that, right? But no one continued the hard conversation. That's what this season is about. We're going to continue those conversations. Because like I said, money isn't about money. It's about leadership. It's about growth. It's about how you show up, right? It's about your day-to-day life. It's about healing from what happened in the past. Right? I can even talk about our culture, right? Unfortunately, our culture is a culture where sometimes people's first experience with money was because they mama or daddy or uncle put credit card, use their social to pay the light bill, credit cards, get a loan, and they never paid the bill. So by the time they was 21, their credit score was 300. Some people trickle down. My mama did it to me. I'm going to do it to them. I'm going to do it to them. Some people be like, oh, hell no. I need to stop this and I want to set my kids up for better. Right? And then some people like, I just don't know what to do, so I'm just not going to do nothing. Right? Here we heal from that. Here we're not going to talk about what you used to be. Here we're going to talk about who you are today. And we're going to heal. Now, I say this for those in the room who don't know that I have. So I'm not just saying this because I think I know what I'm talking about. I do have a degree in financial planning and counseling with a minor in psychology and a minor in investments. I know what I'm talking about. Y'all, we're going to make some money. We're going to make some money. And we're going to do it with the right mindset.
I love that you talk about, you're healing generational curses and around the lack of talk with financial literacy. I think we have another question over here.
Okay, so at first I was going to address the original question that you asked to the group, as far as a truth. But then as you started talking, I was like, well, maybe I can switch it to a question. As you were talking about trauma and mindset.
Mhm.
So, because I believe a lot of people have trauma when it comes to money, in their families. Well, what would you say would be one of the first things that a person can do to change their mindset, to shift their mindset away from the trauma that they may not even realize that they're operating in, and actually begin to heal from that to do better when it comes to finances? Because I believe that trauma is multifaceted. So sometimes the trauma that we experience when it comes to finances can also show up in other areas of our lives as well. So healing from that particular area of trauma can heal another area in our lives as well. So what would you say would be the first step to changing um, or shifting the mindset?
Okay, you asked a couple of, that was a layered question. How do you heal from trauma that you don't know you have? That was the first question I believe you asked. Listen to your circle. Listen to the people around you. You may not know you have trauma, but I'm quite sure if you listen to your loved ones, they are pointing out things about you. They are pointing out issues, and it's the thing that you keep hearing over and over and over again. It's a behavior, it's a mindset, it's something you say, right? You either talk down about yourself, you either don't like something about yourself, you always do this, you always do that, your priorities ain't straight, and somebody keeps saying, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, a boss, somebody keeps saying you're not doing X, Y, and Z. Listen, process that, because if you have people in your life that you trust, you need to be able to accept that feedback, right? And in order to accept the feedback, you need to then, like I said, lesson one, acknowledge the truth. And then once you acknowledge the truth, right, to say, you know what, that person is right. I do move like that. I do act like that, right? So after you do that, then you would have to ask yourself why. After you ask yourself why, then you can go back and you can pinpoint that trauma. But the person who has to do the work is you. It has to start from within. You have to get aligned, and you then in that, right? Because sometimes I think this is what, and I'm doing a lot of different things in my life right now. And one thing I just learned is when I identify my trauma, I'm not just going to sit in it, because like recently I identified some trauma that 8-year-old me had. So first thing I did was I had to go back and I had to forgive 8-year-old me, right? Then after I forgave her, guess what I did, y'all? I thanked her. I thanked her, but because of that trauma, because of the things that she endured, I can now move. So I went back and said, hey, I know you went through this, but because you went through this, it made me stronger here. Like I went back and told her who I was. I told her who I became. I told her, like, now, even in acknowledging it, guess what? I ain't gonna stay there. And then to keep going, I start my day every day. Like I pick different points in my life, 8 years, 15 years, 21 years. I thought about who I was at those stages of my life. And today I start every morning with I am statements, right? I tell myself, right? I'm not manifesting, I am, right? I am, right? Because if we think about the word, I got to add the word in it. I am who God says I am. I am anointed. I am intentional. I am fierce. I am a force multiplier, right? If anybody asks me what legacy do I want to leave in this world, I want people to tell them that I am a force multiplier. What does that mean? That means anybody that comes in my aura, anybody who comes in my energy, my spirit and the anointing on my life is so strong that it forces you to level up. And if you can't level up, you gonna level out. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's how the boundaries, the access, right? You've been knowing me for decades. Old Therese wasn't like that. I had to give myself permission to become who God called me to. That's my advice. That's what I would say.
I love that you talked about forgiving yourself. A lot of times we're taught to forgive other people, but we don't take the time out to forgive X, Y, and Z that may have
We
happened.
have to. We are the most important people in our lives. We got to show up for us. We show up for everybody else. Show up for you. Live your life unapologetically. Be you. It's gonna be our last question.
All right. First of all, I'm very proud of you. I'm very happy about Candid Be Fierce. Can we give her a big hand? Very, very happy. I'm always bragging for my little sister. Yeah, see. So now I'm coming to you because I noticed I've been in a redirection and evaluation and transformation stage within myself and in my businesses. And in doing so, there are some dead cats on the vine that I have got to get off the vine. And talking with the new regime that is going to be taking over, I noticed that they have a passion, they have a purpose, they're coming with strategies, and they're ready and willing. How do you get the blockers off the vine so you can get the new regime to come in to take over?
Read this book. Let Them by Mel Robbins.
About who?
No problem.
Mel Robbins. Let Them. It's the first thing that came to my mind when she started talking. Then read Take a Seat at the Table. Anthony O'Neill. Start with 2 books. Let Them. Let Them is about letting people be who they are. You can't control people, right? So the book is about let them and then let me. Okay? The blockers, let them block. You can never control what a blocker is going to do. You can, a hater gonna hate, right? I'm gonna give my haters front row access. Show up. Hate. They ain't going nowhere. They not gonna unfollow you. They not gonna stop watching. They need the attention. They want to know what you're doing. Let them. Then let me. No hater should have that much control over you that it changes what you do. I'm gonna follow that up with Take a Seat at the Table. That book is about you need to take a seat at the table of your life. You are the head of your decisions. You control the outcome of your life. You control the people that matter. You control how you show up and how you're seen. Whatever anybody else does not matter. I implore you to take back the power. Giving them that much control is worthless. At the end of the day, whatever your blockers do, they gonna do. They sleep well at night. You are upset. You are knocked off, right? Remember, the devil is busy. The devil attacks us through relationships. If a person can come in your life and distract you from your purpose, then that person isn't aligned to your purpose. Now, remember, God sends trouble. God sends confusion, right? No life is easy, right? Remember, our heartbeat, we got a rhythm. We got to have ups and downs and trials and tribulations, right? The word just say go. Sometimes he don't tell us what's going to happen when we go. We don't know the process. We don't know what's going to happen. We just got to go. You got to go through it to be able to come out. Because as I said, there's strength in pressure. Diamonds are made in pressure. Girl, you are Alexander. Oh, that's fluff. That don't matter. You know what I'm saying? We don't let anybody control who we are. Stop acting from emotion and start acting in alignment. If you know your truth and what God has called you to be and do it. Let God get all the glory. Let him watch. Let him watch. You're a performer. You love an audience. Take it on. All right. All right. So with that being said, over the next season of Candidly Fierce, we're going to have real conversations. Conversations about leadership. Conversations about money. Conversations about purpose. Conversations about business. Conversations about relationships. Conversations about alignment. But the truth of the matter is, none of these things exist in isolation. And over this season, we're going to talk about all of it. Because the goal isn't to become more successful. The goal is to become the person who is capable of sustaining success. Candidly Fierce started as a conversation about money. And today, it's a conversation about becoming. And guess what, y'all? We're just getting started. So sit back, relax, tune in, and welcome to